All right, so get this.
Hmm.
You know all that research you sent over about VO2 Max?
Yeah.
I gotta say, I'm already seeing, it's a bigger deal than I thought.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
way more important than I realized.
It's a really fascinating metric.
Yeah.
Think of VO2 max as like a snapshot
Okay.
of how efficiently your muscles and lungs and heart all work together during exercise.
So it's more than just like a thing for athletes
Right.
or like marathon runners or something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's not just for the super fit.
Gotcha.
One of the things that really surprised me is that studies have shown VO2 max is one of the strongest predictors
Okay.
for longevity, like even stronger
Really?
than things like ethnicity or gender.
So wait, are you saying how well I can jog on a treadmill is linked to how long I'll live?
Yeah, precisely.
Wow.
It suggests that a higher VO2 max
Okay.
translates to a longer lifespan.
Huh.
And the interesting thing is there's no upper limit.
Okay.
Like more is always better when it comes to VO2 max.
So I'm hearing you right. It's not just about running a marathon. This impacts my everyday life too.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Imagine having enough energy
Yeah.
to power through your day without feeling drained all the time.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Or being able to keep up with your kids without getting winded.
Oh, for sure.
That's what a good VO2 max can do for you.
Okay, I see what you mean.
Even, shall we say,
Mm.
more intimate activities
Mm-hmm.
benefit from a healthy cardiovascular system.
Gotcha. Okay. I'm starting to see why this is a big deal, but I gotta be honest, I haven't been training for a marathon lately, at all.
Right.
So what happens to my VO2 max if I'm not, actively working on it?
Well, the research paints
Yeah.
kind of a sobering picture.
Okay.
You can lose about 15% of your aerobic capacity
Oh, wow.
every decade if you don't train.
15% decade.
Yeah,
That's a lot.
it is.
Wow.
You could reach your 70s and struggle with simple tasks
Okay.
like carrying groceries
Hmm.
or doing chores around the house. Maintaining your VO2 max is about staying independent as you age.
I see your point. But is it ever too late to start improving?
Never.
Really?
Never too late.
Okay.
There was this study that showed even a 101-year-old cyclist
Oh, wow.
was able to improve their VO2 max with training.
That's encouraging.
And on the flip side,
Right.
it's never too early to start either.
Right. Makes sense. Now I'm curious, how do I even know my VO2 max is? Do I have to go to a lab and get all wired up?
Lab tests are definitely an option,
Okay.
but you can get a surprisingly accurate measurement at home
Real?
without any fancy equipment.
Oh, tell me more. I love a good DIY approach.
Well, there are a couple of simple tests you can try.
Okay.
One is called the Cooper test.
Right.
It involves running as far as you can in 12 minutes.
Okay.
And if running isn't your thing,
Okay.
the 2-kilometer walking test is a good alternative.
Oh, okay, cool.
You're essentially measuring distance covered, time taken,
Hmm.
and your heart rate.
Sounds manageable. We'll be sure to include all the details on how to do those tests in the show notes.
Now, one of the most interesting aspects of VO2 max is its connection to something called lactate,
Okay.
which builds up in your muscles during exercise.
Yeah, I've definitely felt that burning sensation before. What's the deal with lactate?
It's actually a natural byproduct of energy production.
Okay.
It's often misunderstood. Basically, the less fit you are, the faster you produce lactate.
Okay.
And that leads to that familiar fatigue and burning feeling you're talking about.
So does that mean I just need to push through the burn?
Not exactly.
Uh-huh.
Training actually helps you reduce lactate buildup and clear it faster from your muscles.
So how does all of this play into how I should be working out?
That's where things get really interesting.
Okay.
The research highlights the importance of both steady-state cardio
Mm-hmm.
and high-intensity intervals.
Okay.
Think of steady-state cardio, like brisk walking or jogging,
Gotcha.
is building a bigger engine.
Okay.
It improves your base aerobic capacity.
All right.
HIT, on the other hand, is like training that engine to handle high speeds.
So zone 2 cardio builds endurance, and HIAT helps me handle those intense bursts of energy.
Exactly.
Sounds like I need both to really maximize my VO2 max.
Precisely.
Oh,
And there's another crucial piece to this puzzle that we often overlook.
okay. What's that?
Let's talk about what happens when we get sick.
Yes. Why does a simple cold make climbing the stairs feel like I'm summiting Mount Everest?
It's because when you're sick, your body has to work harder.
Okay.
It devotes energy to fight off the infection,
Right.
inflammation, fever, your immune response. They all take a toll.
So it's like my body's too busy battling the sniffles to power my leg.
Exactly. And you might be surprised to learn that even a sore throat
Oh,
can reduce
no.
your VO2 max by 5%.
5% just from a sore throat.
Yeah,
Okay, that explains a lot.
and more serious illnesses can have an even bigger impact.
So having a good VO2 max is kind of like having a health reserve
Yeah,
drawn when you're under the weather.
that's a great way to put it.
It's like having a backup generator
Yeah,
that kicks in when your main power source is compromised.
I like that analogy.
It helps you maintain function
Uh-huh.
and bounce back faster.
This is all starting to click. So we're learning that VO2 max isn't just some abstract fitness number. It's about energy levels,
Yeah.
longevity, and even how our bodies cope with illness. It's pretty incredible when you think about it.
It truly is a remarkable metric.
Yeah.
And we've only just scratched the surface.
Okay, so where do we go from here?
Well, now let's dive deeper into the fascinating connection between VO2 max and those tiny powerhouses inside our cells, the mitochondria.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
These mitochondria
Mhm.
are often referred to as the powerhouses of the cell
Right.
because they're responsible for producing ATP,
Okay.
the energy currency our bodies run on.
Right. I remember learning about mitochondria in biology class,
Mm.
but I never really connected them to my workouts or my overall health.
Yeah, that's where things get really fascinating.
Okay.
When we engage in aerobic exercise,
Uh-huh.
whether it's steady state cardio.
Or high-intensity intervals.
Mhm.
We're essentially forcing our bodies
Mm.
to become more efficient at utilizing oxygen.
Right, we talked about that earlier. So
Right.
how does that tie into the mitochondria?
Well, that increased efficiency directly impacts the number and function of mitochondria
Mm.
within our cells.
Okay.
Think of it like this. The more we train aerobically, the more we upgrade our cellular energy factories.
So we're boosting our capacity to produce ATP,
Exactly.
which means more energy for everything we do.
You got it.
So it's not just about having more energy for my workouts. It's about having more energy for life in general.
Precisely.
Wow.
And this is something that's often overlooked.
Yeah.
We tend to think of exercise as something separate from our daily lives,
Right.
but the truth is it profoundly impacts our energy levels,
Yeah.
our mood, and even cognitive function.
Okay, you've definitely got my attention now.
Yep.
So we're boosting our mitochondrial function through exercise, which gives us more energy. What else can these little powerhouses do?
Well, one of the most intriguing areas of research is the connection between VO2 max and how our bodies utilize fat for fuel.
Okay.
There's this common misconception that any type of exercise automatically burns fat,
Right.
but it's more nuanced than that.
I'm all ears. Tell me more.
Our bodies actually have different energy systems
Okay.
that they tap into, depending on the intensity and duration of our activity.
Mm.
When we're doing light to moderate exercise,
Yeah.
like a brisk walk,
Right.
our bodies primarily burn fat for fuel.
That makes sense. But what happens when we crank up the intensity?
As the intensity increases, our bodies shift gears
Okay.
and start relying more on carbohydrates for fuel.
Gotcha.
This is because carbohydrates are more readily available
Mm-hmm.
and can be broken down quickly
Right.
to provide the energy we need for those short bursts of effort.
So high-intensity workouts like sprints or HIIT
Mm.
are burning more carbs than fat?
That's right.
Mm.
But here's where things get really interesting.
Okay.
As we improve our aerobic capacity through training,
Uh-huh.
our bodies become better at utilizing fat for fuel,
For real?
even at higher intensities.
Wait, so by training our aerobic system, we're actually teaching our bodies to burn more fat even when we're working hard.
You got it.
Wow.
It's like expanding the range of intensities
Okay.
at which our bodies can effectively tap into those fat stores for energy.
This is amazing. So whether our goal is fat loss or simply having more sustained energy throughout the day, improving our VO2 max seems to play a crucial role.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this brings us to another important point,
Okay.
the importance of training both our aerobic and anaerobic systems.
So we've talked about aerobic training.
Yeah.
The steady state cardio and HIIT. What do we mean by anaerobic training?
Anaerobic training involves those short bursts of very high intensity exercise,
Okay.
like weightlifting or sprinting,
Gotcha.
where the demand for energy exceeds the oxygen supply.
So it's like pushing our bodies to their limits in short bursts, right?
Precisely. And while aerobic training helps build that foundational endurance
Yeah.
and fat burning efficiency,
Right.
anaerobic training pushes our limits
Okay.
and helps our bodies adapt to handle those lactate surges we discussed earlier.
Right. It's almost like those intense workouts are training our bodies to become more efficient at clearing the lactate buildup. That causes that burning feeling.
That's a great way to put it.
Okay.
And remember how we talked about lactate being a byproduct of energy production?
Yes.
Well, it turns out that lactate itself can actually be used as fuel by our bodies,
Really?
particularly by the heart.
Wow, I had no idea. So it's not just a waste product, it's actually another source of energy.
Exactly.
Huh.
By training both our aerobic and anaerobic systems,
Okay.
we're essentially optimizing our bodies to utilize a wider range of fuel sources.
Gotcha.
We're becoming more metabolically flexible.
Metabolic flexibility. That sounds like a superpower.
It is, in a sense. Means our bodies are adaptable and efficient, able to seamlessly switch between different energy systems, depending on the demands we place on them.
This is all making so much more sense now. It's like we're peeling back the layers of a complex machine and finally understanding how all the parts work together to keep us running smoothly.
And as we dig deeper into this research,
Yeah.
we discover even more intriguing connections.
Like what?
For example, there's a fascinating link between aerobic capacity and how our bodies handle illness.
We touched on that earlier. Can you elaborate on what the research shows?
Sure, when we get sick, our bodies prioritize fighting off the infection,
Okay.
and that requires a significant amount of energy.
Right.
This energy is often diverted from our muscles, leaving us feeling weak and fatigued.
Right. That's why even climbing a flight of stairs can feel exhausting when we have a cold.
Exactly. And the research shows that our VO2 max actually drops
Really?
when we're sick.
Oh, wow.
Even a simple sore throat can reduce it by 5%.
Wow.
And more serious illnesses can have a much larger impact.
So that feeling of being wiped out when we're sick, is our bodies literally working harder just to function?
Precisely. And this is where having a solid reserve of aerobic capacity becomes crucial.
Okay.
If we've been consistently training and have higher VO2 max to begin with,
Yeah.
we have more of a buffer to withstand the energy demands of illness.
So it's almost like having a savings account for our health. We've built up these reserves.
Yeah.
That we can draw upon when we need them most.
That's a great analogy.
Huh.
It's another compelling reason to prioritize aerobic training.
Right.
It's not just about performance or aesthetics, it's about resilience
Right.
in the face of life's inevitable challenges.
This has been so eye-opening. It sounds like improving our VO2 max is a win-win situation no matter how you look at it. But I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
What about those of us who maybe can't do those really intense workouts? Maybe we have physical limitations, or we're just starting out on our fitness journey. Is there still hope for us to improve our aerobic capacity?
Absolutely.
Okay, good.
Even small increases in activity can make a significant difference.
Really?
The research actually highlighted that simply walking more
Walking.
can have a positive impact on VO2 max.
So we don't have to be marathon runners or CrossFit enthusiasts to reap the benefits.
Not at all.
Okay.
Consistency is key.
Gotcha.
Aim for at least 8,100 steps a day and gradually increase from there as you feel comfortable.
That's encouraging. It's something we can all incorporate into our daily routines, even if we're not hitting the gym every day.
Exactly.
Okay.
Take the stairs instead of the elevator, park further away from your destination, walk during your lunch break. It all adds up.
This is such empowering information. It means that improving our health and well-being is within reach for everyone, regardless of our current fitness level or any physical limitations we might have.
That's what's so remarkable about this research.
Yeah.
It's full of hope and possibility.
Right.
It shows us that we have more control over our health than we might realize.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive, exploring the multifaceted world of aerobic capacity. We've seen how it's not just a number, but a key indicator of overall health and vitality.
We've learned that a higher VO2 max translates to more energy, better fat utilization, increased resilience against illness, and even a potential impact on longevity.
It's honestly been a game changer for me. But before we wrap up, there's one final question that's been lingering in my mind.
Okay, I'm listening.
We've talked about how aerobic training boosts those mitochondrial powerhouses in our cells.
Right.
And we've explored how a higher VO2 max translates to more energy, better fat utilization, and even greater resilience against illness.
So we have.
But what if, and just hear me out, what if there's even more to the story? What if optimizing our aerobic capacity benefits us in ways we haven't even considered? What if those benefits go far beyond what we've discussed so far?
That's a fascinating thought. And the research does suggest some truly remarkable possibilities.
Like what?
Well, remember we talked about mitochondria being crucial for energy production.
Yeah.
It turns out they're not just about energy.
Okay.
They play a significant role in a whole range of cellular processes.
Hmm.
And some scientists believe that by improving mitochondrial function through exercise,
Okay.
we might be able to positively influence everything, from cognitive health
Yeah.
to the aging process itself.
Hold on. Are you saying better cardio could make us sharper and slow down aging?
It's a bold idea,
Yeah.
and more research is needed,
Okay.
but the early evidence is compelling.
So how does this work? Are we talking about actually building more mitochondria in our brains?
That's part of it.
Wow.
Studies have shown that aerobic exercise can increase mitochondrial density in the hippocampus,
Okay.
the area of the brain, crucial for memory and learning.
So that runner's high isn't just a feeling, it's actually rewiring our brains.
Exactly.
Wow.
And there's evidence that exercise improves blood flow to the brain,
Okay.
delivering more oxygen and nutrients to those energy-hungry neurons.
So it's like giving our brains a turbo boost. What about aging? How can VO2 max impact that?
Aging is a complex process.
Right.
It involves damage to our cells and DNA over time.
The wear and tear of life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Mitochondria play a key role in cellular repair and protection.
Okay.
By improving their function through exercise, we might be able to slow down the rate of cellular damage and promote a more youthful biological age.
So those 100-year-old marathon runners are just outliers. They've tapped into something powerful.
It's a fascinating possibility.
Yeah.
While more research is needed,
Right.
the idea that we can influence the aging process through lifestyle choices is incredibly empowering.
It really is. We've gone from viewing VO2 max as a simple fitness metric
Huh.
to understanding it as a gateway to a healthier, more vibrant life.
It's amazing what we can discover when we take a deep dive into a topic.
Absolutely. We started with this number, VO2 max, and uncovered a whole universe of interconnected ideas.
And who knows what other amazing discoveries await us as scientists continue to explore this field.
Well, we've reached the end of our deep dive into aerobic capacity. We've covered a lot of ground. From the basics of VO2 max to its mind-blowing potential impact on brain health and aging.
We've learned that it's not just about how fast you can run or how much weight you can lift. It's about optimizing your body's ability to fuel every aspect of your life.
And as always, we've got tons of resources in the show notes for you to explore, including those at-home VO2 max tests we mentioned.
Remember, even small steps towards a more active lifestyle can make a world of difference.
So get out there, get moving, and discover the incredible power of your own aerobic capacity. Until next time, deep divers.
So these mitochondria, they're often called like the powerhouses of the cell because they produce ATP, which is basically like the energy currency that our bodies run on.
Yeah, okay, I remember learning about mitochondria back in biology class, but I never really made the connection to like my workouts or my overall health.
Yeah, and that's what's so fascinating about this. When we do aerobic exercise, whether it's like steady state cardio or high intensity intervals, we basically force our bodies to get better at using oxygen.
Yeah, right. We talked about that earlier. How does that tie into the mitochondria, though?
Well, that increase in efficiency, it directly impacts the number and the function of the mitochondria inside our cells.
Okay.
So it's like this. The more we train aerobically, the more we're kind of upgrading those cellular energy factories.
So we're boosting our capacity to produce ATP,
Exactly.
which means more energy for everything.
You got it.
So it's not just about having more energy for my workouts. It's about having more energy for, like, life in general.
Precisely.
That's pretty cool.
And that's something that a lot of people overlook.
Yeah, I think you're right.
We tend to think of exercise as like this separate thing from our daily lives.
Right.
But in reality, it has a huge impact on our energy levels, our mood, even our cognitive function.
Okay, you're really selling me on this now. So we're boosting those mitochondria with exercise. We're getting more energy. What else can these little guys do?
Well, one of the most interesting areas of research is the connection between VO2 max and how our bodies use fat for fuel.
Yeah.
A lot of people think that any exercise will automatically burn fat,
Yeah, I've definitely heard that.
but it's not quite that simple.
Tell me more.
Our bodies actually have different energy systems that they tap into, depending on what we're doing and how long we're doing it for.
Wow.
So when we're doing like light to moderate exercise, like let's say a brisk walk,
Yeah.
our bodies primarily use fat for fuel.
Okay, that makes sense. But what happens when we, like, really ramp up the intensity?
Well, as the intensity goes up, our bodies have to switch gears
Okay.
and they start relying more on carbohydrates for fuel because carbs are more readily available
Okay.
and they can be broken down quickly. to give us the energy we need for those short bursts.
So like high-intensity workouts, like sprints or
Right.
HIIT, those are burning more carbs than fat.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
But here's where it gets really interesting.
Right, lay it on me.
As we get better at using oxygen through training,
Mm-hmm.
our bodies also get better at using fat as fuel, even at higher intensities.
Well, so by training our aerobic system, we're actually teaching our bodies to burn more fat, even when we're working really hard.
Exactly.
That's incredible.
It's like we're expanding the range of intensities
Mm,
where our bodies can efficiently tap into those fat stores.
this is amazing. So
Right.
whether we want to lose fat or just have more energy throughout the day, it sounds like improving our VO2 max is key.
It really is.
Okay.
And this brings us to another really important point,
What's that?
the importance of training both our aerobic and anaerobic systems.
Right. We've talked about aerobic training, the steady state cardio, and the HIIT. What do we mean by anaerobic training?
Anaerobic training is all about those quick bursts of really intense exercise,
Ah,
things like weightlifting or sprinting,
gotcha.
where you need more energy than your oxygen supply can provide.
So it's like pushing your body to the limit?
In short bursts.
Right.
Okay.
And while aerobic training builds that foundation of endurance and fat-burning efficiency, anaerobic training pushes our limits in a different way. And it helps our bodies learn to handle those lactate surges we talked about earlier.
Right. So it's like those intense
Ah.
workouts
Yeah.
are actually training our bodies
Right.
to get better at clearing that lactate buildup
Yeah.
that causes that burning feeling.
Exactly.
Okay, cool.
And remember we were talking about how lactate is a byproduct of energy
Yeah.
production?
Right.
Well, it turns out that lactate itself can actually be used as fuel by our bodies,
Really?
especially by the heart.
Wow. I had no idea. So it's not just a waste product. It can actually be used as energy.
Exactly.
Mm.
And by training both our aerobic and anaerobic systems, we're
Right.
basically making our bodies more efficient at using a wider range of fuel sources.
So we're becoming more metabolically flexible.
Exactly.
That sounds like a superpower.
It kind of is.
It means our bodies are more adaptable, more efficient,
Hmm.
able to switch between different energy systems smoothly, depending on what we're asking them to do.
This is all starting to make so much more sense now. It's like we're looking under the hood of a car and finally understanding how all the parts work together.
That's a great analogy.
Right.
And the more we dig into this research, the more interesting connections we find.
Like what?
For example,
Mm.
there's a fascinating link between aerobic capacity
Mm.
and how our bodies handle being sick.
Yeah, we touched on that earlier. Can you go into a little more detail?
Sure. So when we get sick,
Mm.
our bodies have to prioritize fighting off the infection.
Okay.
And that takes a lot of energy.
Right.
That energy often gets diverted from our muscles.
Yeah.
And that's why we feel so weak and tired.
Right. Even walking up the stairs feels exhausting when you have a cold.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And the research actually shows that our VO2 max drops when we're sick.
Really?
Even a simple sore throat can reduce it by 5%.
Wow.
And more serious illnesses can have an even bigger impact.
So basically that feeling of being totally wiped out, is our body actually working overtime just to function?
Precisely.
Hmm.
And this is where having a good base of aerobic capacity
Mm-hmm.
becomes so important.
Yeah.
If we've been training consistently and we have a higher VO2 max to start with,
Yeah.
we have more of a buffer to handle the energy demands of being sick.
It's almost like having a savings account for our health.
Right.
We've built up these reserves that we can use when we need them most.
That's a great way to put it.
Mm.
It's another reason why we should make aerobic training a priority.
Right.
It's not just about performance or how we look. It's about being resilient. When life throws us a curveball,
I'm really starting to see that. It sounds like improving our VO2 max is a win-win, no matter how you look at it. But I do have a question.
okay, what is it?
What about people who can't do those really intense workouts? Maybe they have some physical limitations, or they're just starting out on their fitness journey. Is there any hope for them to improve their aerobic capacity?
Absolutely.
Okay, that's good to hear.
Even small increases in activity can make a big difference.
Really?
Research has shown that simply walking more
Just walking.
can have a positive effect on VO2 max.
So you don't have to be a marathon runner or anything
Not at all.
to get the benefits.
Consistency is key.
Right.
Try to aim for at least 800 steps a day and gradually increase that as you feel more comfortable.
That's pretty encouraging. That's something that anyone can do,
Right.
even if they're not going to the gym every day.
Exactly.
Okay.
Take the stairs instead of the elevator. Park a little further away. Walk during your lunch break. It all adds up.
I love that. It feels very empowering. It means that improving our health and well-being is possible for everyone, no matter where they're starting from.
That's one of the most amazing things about this research.
Yeah,
It's full of hope and possibility.
right.
It shows us that we have more control over our health than we might think.
We've covered so much in this deep dive about aerobic capacity, and we've learned that it's not just some random number. It's a key indicator of our overall health and how well we're doing.
Right. We've learned that a higher VO2 max means more energy, better fat utilization, greater resilience against illness, and it might even impact how long we live.
Yeah, this has honestly been a game changer for me. But before we wrap things up, I have one last question.
Okay, I'm all ears.
So we've talked about how training aerobically boosts those mitochondrial powerhouses in our cells,
Yeah.
and how a higher VO2 max means we have more energy, we're better at using fat for fuel, and we're more resilient when we get sick.
Right.
But what if, and just hear me out for a second, what if there's more to the story? What if getting our aerobic capacity up actually has benefits we haven't even thought of?
Okay.
What if it goes way beyond what we've talked about already?
That's an interesting idea. And, the research does point to some pretty amazing possibilities.
Like what?
Remember how we talked about mitochondria being essential for producing energy?
Yes.
Turns out they're not just about energy. They're involved in a whole bunch of cellular processes.
Hmm.
And some scientists think that when we improve mitochondrial function through exercise, we might actually be able to have a positive impact on everything from how well our brains work to how we age.
Wait, are you saying that getting better at cardio could make us think more clearly? And even slow down aging?
It's a bold idea,
Sure.
and we need more research,
Okay.
but the early evidence is pretty exciting.
So how would that even work? Are we talking about actually building more mitochondria in our brains?
That's part of it.
Wow.
Studies have shown that aerobic exercise can increase the density of mitochondria
Yeah.
in the hippocampus,
Okay.
which is a part of the brain
But-
that's responsible for learning and memory.
So that runner's high people talk about, it's not just a feeling, it's actually changing our brains.
Exactly.
Oh, that's wild.
And there's also evidence that exercise improves blood flow to the brain. So it's delivering more oxygen and nutrients
Yeah.
to those neurons that need a lot of energy.
So it's like giving our brains a supercharge. Okay, what about aging though? How can VO2 max affect that?
Well, aging is complicated.
Right.
It involves damage to our cells and DNA over time.
Like just the wear and tear of living.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But mitochondria are really important for repairing cells and protecting them. So if we can improve how they function through exercise, we might be able to slow down that cell damage and help our body stay younger longer.
So those people we hear about, who are running marathons at 100 years old, they're not just freaks of nature. They figured something out.
It's a fascinating possibility.
Right.
We do need more research.
Yeah.
But the idea that we can impact how we age by making different choices is incredibly powerful.
It really is. We started off thinking about VO2 max as just a fitness number, and now we see it as like a key to living a healthier and more vibrant life.
It's amazing what we can discover, where we really dig deep into a topic.
I know, right? We started with this one number, VO2 max, and look where we ended up.
Who knows what other discoveries are out there, just waiting for scientists to find them.
Well, that's about all the time we have for today's deep dive. We covered a lot of ground, from the basics of VO2 max to its potential impact on brain health and aging.
We learned that it's not just about how fast you can run or how much you can lift. It's about optimizing your body so you have the energy to do everything you want to do.
And as always, you can find more information in the show notes, including those at-home tests for VO2 max that we talked about.
Remember, even small changes can make a big difference.
So get out there, get moving, and see what your body can really do. Until next time, deep divers.